You there?
Yeah.
Okay. Is your mic on? Or are you just far away from it right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I think Nick will be joining us here in a second.
Shit.
Oh, I know what's going on here. Close that out.
Hi.
Hello.
That was fun. That was actually very slick, Jeff. No, I really mean that you've got
so
to
try to do something fancy and look what happens.
Yeah, I'm trying to quickly get this thing back.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Apparently, though, that there are some people having trouble with the link.
I just used it and it fine. I've got the pop-out chat working.
Yeah, me too.
So it seemed to be okay. I think you've got to end the old link probably before you can start the new one.
I thought we had. Hang on.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, the individuals involved. Okay. I think. Yeah,
I think you're right. Well, that was wonderful. That was awesome.
Well, he just blamed Brent for crashing the show.
Yeah, he apologized. Sorry, I didn't mean to crash your show. It wasn't Brent's fault. It wasn't. It was my fault. It was. I was quickly over here trying to do something that I'm not used to doing, and I just saw that big red button that says stop broadcast. Oh, I gotta click that.
Do.
And then
press that.
No, I can't believe
you wouldn't believe how many hours I spent sitting in a fighter looking at those big red buttons going, oh, I'd really love to push one of those.
You should never
red exactly.
Oh my. Oh wow. So do we have everybody back?
I'm here.
Most.
Well,
yep.
I know you all are here, but I'm talking about our wonderful.
Well, we've got quite a few. Ken Hayes, Captain Al, Nico's there. Yep. Most Liz
Nick
is there.
Oh, no.
Oh, Dana, can you not hear us?
I can hear you. I cannot hear Nick.
Okay, check that setting in your,
I did.
browser again.
Try a different browser. Try Chrome. You can't hear me.
Yeah, he said, try a different browser. Try Chrome. I never use Safari for anything, actually.
No, likewise.
I've never had this problem before.
Yeah, that's odd why it's doing that. Unless there's some kind of new version that auto-installed on you or something. Hey, Ken, it had nothing to do with the checklists. There was no checklist to follow. And I just saw this really pretty red button.
Nick, say something.
Peter Piper Pig.
Oh, shoot.
Apparently he doesn't hear you.
Nope.
Well, that's it. I can say whatever I like.
Good God.
Oh, I can't believe you're saying that about Dana, Nick.
Yeah, I know. Terrible, isn't
it? Do you have any other browser on your laptop?
I do not.
Well, it'll take you 2 minutes to download.
Yeah, why don't you download Chrome and open up this link in it.
In the meantime, we'll finish the show. Oh, we're live. Oh, sorry. Everyone else is probably hearing me.
In the meantime, finish the show.
Yeah, continue.
No. We want to make sure you're there.
Yeah, I'm downloading.
Okay.
Good thing I'm on the high speed.
Yes.
We like high speed.
High speed's good.
Yeah, which is why I really would quite like sometimes to fly a Boeing, because I get a bit fed up being overtaken.
Downloading the app for your phone. No, I don't want to do that.
Looking up the jet pipes of a Boeing is not my idea of fun.
Tailpipe?
Yes, tailpipe. We like a nice tailpipe.
I don't know if you were here for the major fail that I that I had just initiated. We had this issue before earlier before we started the real show. Dana was having issues with hearing everybody on the Hangout, which is kind of odd. Either you hear someone and everyone, or you don't. But apparently, he was only hearing me and not Nick, and so
Which is very odd.
we're going to. It is very odd, and he is now downloading the Chrome browser, which both Nick and I use and have never had issue. Of course, Dana has never had issue with Safari either, but apparently he is today. So we'll wait for him to get that sorted out.
Ahoy, Pipperoni!
Who's that? Oh, Pip. Ahoy there.
Pip's joined us.
Okay, so luckily it didn't take too long for me to initiate a new Hangout. Okay, so we'll wait for Dana.
Is it a pain joining the two together when it comes to editing?
No, what I'll do is just leave it as part 1 and part 2. So
okay.
People on the YouTube channel will just have to know how to find the part 1 and then play that first, hopefully, and then part 2. No. Well, Ken says, should we do the clapboards again? I guess probably wouldn't hurt. Although we're getting good signal from both of you, so I think we're okay.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't know why, but the video and the audio today has been brilliant.
I did Google.
What's that, Dana?
Logging into Google with passwords. I don't know if I have know that.
Why would you have to log in?
Set it up. I have to sign into Chrome.
I have to sign into Hangouts on a new web browser. It probably doesn't remember his previous sign-in details.
Nope.
No, he can't remember his password.
I highly recommend password managers like LastPass or OnePass.
Yeah.
Dashlane.
I'm assuming the audience can all hear me. Am I audible to you, Captain Al? Good. Thank you, Liz.
They do hear. Boy, that's a big lag, isn't it?
Sadly, she says I'm loud and clear.
Sadly.
I'm going to change my Google password.
Uh-oh.
I have no idea what it is.
So obviously you don't use a password manager.
No. No, because I get an Apple product and then it just automatically loads my passwords.
Well, look in your keychain then.
Good idea. Hold on.
Go.
I'm already into it.
Okay.
Not 100%, Pip, I'm afraid. But the worst thing was I had to go for an annual medical. And, of course, I went there while I was still on painkillers.
Computer, so I have to go to my phone.
And with a bad back. And so he said, well, I can't give you a medical with you in this condition, and certainly not on all those painkillers. So come back to me when you're feeling better. So I've now got to arrange another annual medical. Well, not annual, it's 6 monthly now. So basically, I don't have a medical anymore.
This one.
So I ain't flying for a little while anyway. And the annoying thing is it's just time to get everything sorted.
Now I got to figure out how to bring the link over from...
Well, it should copy and paste.
Safari.
Yeah, copy and paste.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
I'm fed up standing now. I might have to sit down for a bit. Bzzz. Yeah, sorry, Blue. The dogs are being really well behaved. That probably means they're now going to start barking at something, but I've got two of them.
I hear Greta barking upstairs.
Ah, is it time to let her out quickly?
I hear footsteps, so I think my wife is taking care of it.
Oh, cool. Woof, woof. It's my fault for getting so old. Yes, and it'll be your fault when you're my age. But I've got me a nice radio. CQ, CQ, CQ.
Okay, fingers crossed. Dana's joining the call. He's gonna have to turn his video on or something.
Video's on.
Now we're not getting your video.
Well, I know why. That'll probably work better.
Yeah.
Hello, Dana. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Whee!
Wow.
Hey, welcome to the world of Chrome.
Yeah, we love Chrome.
All right. Well, I'm back.
Excellent. Okay. Let's see.
Want to do a reclap? You want the clap?
I guess we can. Let's just for the heck of it. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that woke the dogs up.
Oh no.
Okay, Blue. It's okay.
Okay.
It's okay. Good cat. Oh, she stared at me all worried. What happened? I was fast asleep.
Poor Blue.
Okay. Jen says we better hurry up. I'll be retired before we get the show finished.
Oh, shut up, Jen. She's just
a troublemaker
about my getting the Columbus and Dayton runways confused. The airports are nothing alike. The Columbus airport is so nice, so much nicer.
Well, it's mainly because of the people that work there,
of course. Okay. Let's see. Now we're going to try this again. Okay. And I'm going to go over. Oh, by the way, I've had the button, what we call the echo button, on the whole time, and you haven't noticed any issues.
No, not yet.
Not at all.
Okay. Okay. Well, let me share my screen again. Fingers crossed. And I'll be careful not to hit the big red button.
Woohoo!
And there we go. Share. And okay, that's the problem I had before. For some reason, it's not playing. Why is it doing that? Oh, I know why. Here we go. All right, let's give it another shot.
What's that? Up in the sky? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? MG88, man, what's that? That's old as hell, man, that's whack. The mad dog, more like the sad dog, more like the old dog, cause that's an old plane, man. Probably made in the 1800s. I don't even know if that was even around when the dinosaurs was around, but it's so cool. Hey, that's you, Captain Jeff, flying around in that rusty bucket with the white mustache. Hey, why you doing that? You're not going very fast. I'm surprised it can stay above the ground. Hey, but I'ma give you some advice. Maybe you should sell it for some parts. I know it's not nice, but hey, I'm just giving you a couple pointers of what you can do so the mad dog can rest in peace. Cause I feel like that plane just been waiting for the day that it can RIP 6 feet underground. Yo, that's the sound. That's why I hit you with the underground sound. Get it? Mad dog, sorry I had to tell it to you. Mad dog, I know it's not fair. Mad dog, been waiting for rest. Mad dog, wanna go with the rest. last of its kind. Mad dog, I wish you could die. Mad dog, feel so bad for the mad dog. Hey, feel so sad. Mad dog, I'm sorry I had to tell it to you. Mad dog, I know it's not fair. Mad dog, been waiting for rest. Mad dog, wanna go with the rest. Mad dog, the last of its kind. Mad dog, I wish you could die. Mad dog, feel so bad for the mad dog. Hey, feel so sad.
I love that. That's
That
brilliant.
was fantastic.
I love the watch. Wasn't that fantastic?
Wow. Way to go, Miami Hick.
Yeah.
Miami Hick, I would disagree with one statement, though, on that thing. It's not the last of its kind.
No.
The 717, which is actually a Mad Dog product, it's really not a Boeing. It's an
He
MD-95.
doesn't want to hear that.
Ah.
It wasn't Hick, by the way. That was Puppet Hood.
Puppet Hood.
Yeah. You see the T-shirt. I don't know if you could see the video. Okay.
That was great.
Yeah.
Sorry at all.
I could have done with subtitles, being an Englishman.
Well, I asked Brent to send me the lyrics, and so he did, and I'll include those in the show notes so you can follow along. But you want me to read them to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. What's that in the sky? Is it a bird? Is it a plane? MD-88, man. That's what's that? That's old as blank. Man, that's black. The mad dog, more like the sad dog, more like the old dog, because that's an old plane. It was probably made in the 1800s. I did actually hear that part. I don't know if that was around when the dinosaurs was around, but it's so cool. That's you, Captain Jeff, flying around in that rusty bucket with a white mustache, man. Why are you doing that? You're not going very fast. I'm surprised it can even stay above the ground. But I'm going to give you some advice. Maybe you should sell it for some parts. I know it's not nice, but hey, I'm just giving a couple of pointers, hoping you can do so the mad dog can rest in peace, because I feel that plane just waiting for the day it can RIP 6 feet underground. That's the sound. That's why I hit you with the underground sound. Mad dog, sorry I had to tell it to you. Mad dog, I know it's not fair. Mad dog, waiting for the rest. Mad dog, want to go with the rest. Mad dog, the last of its kind. Mad dog, wish you could die.
No.
Feel so bad.
Yay!
Mad dog, feel so sad.
Oh,
That
that is sad.
Yeah.
Excellent. That was
very,
brilliant.
that was wonderful.
Absolutely.
That was awesome. That's fantastic.
I'll put those lyrics in the show notes so everybody can read along and weep.
So you do rapping in the church choir?
No, I don't, obviously.
Yeah.
I need to have the music in the background. I didn't have the music. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thanks, Miami Hick, Brent, for that. Very, very well done, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool. You really went all out on that one. Very nice costume too, the puppet. Anyway. Again, that was Brent, or also known as Miami Hick. And hey, we're all glad you're back, man.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on?
Please.
Okay. Let's see. JJ Pittsburgh writes, I've been wrapped up in preparation for recording the vocals for my album with my music partner, Doug. Oh, I wonder if he had anything to do with that rap.
Ooh,
No.
you never know.
And once that wraps up, WRAP, I'm looking forward to getting to my first APG meetup, hopefully Oshkosh. Anyway, yeah, we hope so too.
Awesome.
Since I've had music on the brain, I was wondering if any of your flying adventures have had you cross paths with any famous singers or bands. And Captain Jeff will have to do a duet at we'll have to duet at karaoke sometime since you're a singer yourself. Well, what will we sing? Haha. Blue skies and tailwinds. Prince, peace and love. JJ. Yeah, that might be fun. But and we hope that we'll get to see you at Oshkosh. Any Dana? Any singers or
Yeah, I had the Beach Boys, the original Beach Boys. Yeah, I had them on my airplane. Well, it's going back a couple of years now, but they were not interested in me or my captain at all. The beautiful flight attendants. We actually, a rare occasion, but it happened to be the fact that that flight we had some very young and beautiful flight attendants on the flight. I guess it must have been ironic or what was it, fate that they had these beautiful young ladies. So I actually have pictures of them in the jetway with the flight attendants who they were very interested in. And so they were really cool. Very nice guys. And that's just before, which one of the Beach Boys just passed? Lead singer, I think, was it?
Was it Brian Wilson?
Yeah, I think Brian Wilson I think it's one of them just passed away.
Okay.
So this is going back a couple years just before he passed on. So very nice to meet them.
Nick.
Well, Tom Jones, of course. Who hasn't had the chance to meet Tom Jones? What a marvelous gentleman. He signed bits and pieces for every crew member.
Perhaps panties and
all sorts of things. I got a sick bag, but
oh, nice.
That's what I thought.
Unused, I hope.
Yeah, luckily.
Good.
Although it might have been worth some money if he, a bit of Tom Jones in a sick bag. Yeah. Of course, I never used to keep on. I still don't keep up with the bands that are new and on the scene, etc. So when the crew told me that Jamiroquai were on board, I went, I wasn't flying the aircraft. I was deadheading. So I was sitting in my upper class seat, and the lead singer of Jamiroquai asked me if I wouldn't mind swapping seats with him so he could sit with the rest of his band. And I said, "Which band?" And he said, "Oh, yeah, of course I did." So he said, "Which band?" I said, he said, "Jamiroquai." And I said, "Oh, okay."
Obviously.
What? Yes. Yeah. Of course, I swapped seats, and but I was thinking to myself, who the hell are they? Anyway, I'm pretty sure I've had some of Coldplay on, and a few others, plenty of actresses and actors, and some other persons of interest, including a certain young lady who was involved with the president, a past president.
And a blue dress?
Well, she wasn't wearing it at the time. I think by that time she'd sent it to the cleaners.
Hope so.
Yeah. So I had plenty of people of note on board, but very few of them, except Tony Curtis. You remember? I'm Spartacus. No, I'm Spartacus. He came up on the flight deck when in the day when we used to just have the door open, and spent an hour or two up on the flight. What a lovely fella he was. Absolutely superb. Telling us all his adventures and stories from his time as a film star and things he got up to. And a very polite and very nice gent. Sadly passed away now. He spent the time doodling a picture of the airplane with Captain Nick sitting in the front. And when we were doing a long crossing of northern Canada, and you only had to make a position report every half an hour or so, and we were, I think, speaking to Montreal or one of the Canadian people. There was hardly anybody on the frequency. So when I finished my position report, I said to the young lady, and I said, "I don't suppose you know who Tony Curtis is?" she was a bit surprised, but she said, yes, of course. I said, would you like to speak to him? So I gave the microphone to Teddy because we had the loudspeakers on, and these two had like a 10-minute conversation. he was such a nice bloke. So, he's one of my film heroes amongst many. Cool. So that was an absolute pleasure.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Pardon?
I was going to say, I didn't realize we're going to do more than one. Stevie Wonder. I had his
on.
Or
you had your chance.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
Was he flying?
Was he flying? He was. He was flying.
Excellent.
In first class.
Yeah. I would love to meet Stevie Wonder.
He was, you know what? He was a truly a classy guy. Real nice. He's very appreciative. Got to shake his hand, and just seemed like a genuinely nice guy.
Yeah. I can't recall any like singers or bands. It seems like all of my celebrity encounters were people in movies and TV and game shows and that kind of thing. But no, I can't think of any. Well, I take that back. Dolly Parton.
Oh, wow.
Wait, how'd you know she was there?
You know what? Very interestingly, she is a very small person. Very short. Like
that's not the way some people would describe it.
Well, but, in proportionally, when you see her on the screen, things look different. She looked like a regular person to me, and in all respects, yeah.
What do I love about her? She's such an upfront lady.
Mm-hmm.
She makes no bones about where she came from and what kind of a life she has lived.
Mm-hmm.
Very upfront about that. Doesn't try and hide any of that. She's a real class act, I think.
Yeah, she was a very nice woman.
Couldn't agree more. What she is.
Thanks, JJ. Hope to see you in Oshkosh, and hope to sing a duet. That'd be fun. I guess you better tell me what you're thinking of singing so I can kind of start practicing.
Oh, I know what it'll be because you fire the Mad Dog. It'll be, if I had a hammer.
Yeah.
I'd hammer in the yeah, all right then.
That's not funny.
Let's see. Oh, how about Islands in the Sun? Wasn't that a duet that Dolly Parton sang with somebody?
I'm trying to think what Islands in the Sun has to do with the Mad Dog.
Nothing at all.
Oh, okay.
We don't ever see Islands in the Sun.
Islands in the. Come on, help me out, chat room. What am I thinking of? What song is that? Is Micah there?
I'm afraid Micah's not there.
Yeah. Kenny Rogers. And what was it? Was it Island? Was it Islands in the Stream? Thank you, Al.
You see, knowing you, I thought it would have been Puff the Magic Dragon.
Yeah.
Well, Weezer did it. Islands in the Sun.
Islands in the Steam.
Now wait a minute. Now I'm going to have to look it up. Just delete this from the show, Liz, as far as time. This is all messed up. Mm-hmm. Islands in the Stream. Come on. What does this do?
Baby, when I met you, there was peace unknown.
Okay, that's all I can play. Yeah, that was you're right. Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream, Islands in the Sun. What's wrong with me? I never have been very good with lyrics. But that's the good thing about karaoke. It's the lyrics are right there. Okay.
At least you have a voice to sing. I don't have a voice for radio or a face for radio either.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Okay. Let's move on, shall we? Try to salvage the show.
A little bit of it.
Yeah. Tom Seagraves sent some audio feedback.
Hey, APG crew. This is Tom from Columbia, Missouri. I have not been a great APG community member for the past several weeks, and I've been a few episodes behind. So I'm a little late to the party when I'm talking about this piece of feedback. But I just listened to episode 362, and you guys read the open letter that the flight attendant wrote to a rude passenger. And I think, as you guys said, that was a very well-written letter. And so years ago, I just thought I'd share this story. Years ago, a friend of mine was a flight attendant, and she had done it for several years, and she always had stories about how there were people that treated flight attendants very rudely and just treated them bad. And but she also talked about passengers that were great passengers. And I took that to heart when I used to, years ago, I used to fly all the time, all across the country for my work. And I adopted a policy when I got on a plane. I would go to the store and I would buy a large bag of candy. And usually it was a bag of peanut M&Ms. And when I got on the plane, I would hand that bag of peanut M&Ms to the first flight attendant, and I would say, "This is a gift for you. Please share it with the other flight attendants, but I really appreciate what you do for us and how you take care of us." And, I never once gave that bag of candy to a flight attendant and did not really see a genuine response of gratitude and thankfulness from them. One particular flight, and I remember it very well, I was flying from St. Louis to Phoenix, and I got on the plane and I gave that bag of candy to the flight attendant, and I thought she was going to cry when I did that. And I went back and I sat down, and the plane got loaded, and she came back before the door was closed, and she said, "Sir, we do have that first class upgrade available for you." And I just kind of looked at her, and she said, "Come on, come with me." And now, of course, I did not give her that bag of candy to get an upgrade, but she was nice enough to do that for me. And as we walked up to the front of the plane, she said, "If you have a minute, I'd like to speak to you up in the galley." And I said, "Okay." And I walked up there. She kind of pulled me inside the galley, and she said, "I have to be honest with you. I was just about ready to give up on being a flight attendant." She said, "I got treated very rudely on the previous flight before this." And she said, "I had a couple of really nasty customers yesterday. And I just was kind of thinking it was time for me to get out of this business. But when you gave me that bag of candy, I realized that there are still a lot of good people that fly on these planes. And I just want to say that I really appreciate what you did. And this makes me want to keep doing what I'm doing." And it almost brought me to tears. Just a very simple gesture, a $3 or $4 bag of M&Ms. And it amazes me what people will do sometimes. I will also say that I've got a few stories of people treating flight attendants rudely and me jumping into the middle of it and kind of intervening. Because I just, when I see people treat others in a bullying, disrespectful way, it's very hard for me to hold my tongue. Anyway, I wish that more people understood what those men and women go through, those flight attendants. You guys know it all too well. And those of us that either do now or have spent a lot of time on airplanes, hopefully we all know that as well. So anyway, thanks again for the show, guys. And we'll talk to you soon.
Wow. Thank you, Tom, for sharing that story with us. That was indeed a wonderful story. And you're right. The flight attendants really don't get treated with respect always, which is a shame.
No, we seem to have had a series of stories, though, that perhaps prove that they're such wonderful people and do such marvelous things. Yeah, that's great, actually. It's a good trade-in, a packet of M&Ms for an upgrade. I think from now on, having heard that, there'll be M&M packets flying around the cabin, yeah. and everyone will be just standing there in first class, going, "I've got my M&Ms."
I'm sure that you didn't do that to get an upgrade. I just did a big, really bad wink. Oh,
You know, in back in my commuting days, I was, you know, didn't have to, but I always showed up with a bag of candy for the crew. Be, you know, very appreciative. So, makes a difference in people's days.
yeah.
When you show some positivity towards them. And that's actually what I really enjoy about being captain, is you can set that tone.
Eating M&Ms.
What? Eating M&Ms. Yep, that's why I don't fit in the cockpit anymore, and I have to move on.
Okay, well, don't go international. Ooh,
Yeah.
Oh, nice big cockpits, though.
yeah, that's true.
Well, even those will get too small for me after a while.
All right, we have some more audio feedback. It says, "Hi, Jeff and gang. Yet more audio feedback on family support for pilots. You'll be pleased to know I'm trying to do a bit more in terms of quality and, more importantly, quantity control." It's easy when you start recording some audio that before you know it, you're like 10, 15 minutes long, and you're going, "Oh, look at that. Didn't realize I was yakking that long." Anyway, Tom sent us this new and improved feedback.
Hi, APG crew and community. Just wanted to say it was great to hear Chad give his story so far on the Miami episode. For someone looking to make a career change, it was incredibly inspiring. And on the subject of inspiration, I also wanted to say thank you to the crew for your responses to the lengthy feedback I left a few weeks ago on the subject of coming out as a wannabe pilot. I found your words very encouraging, and I believe some of the listener feedback on recent episodes has been in response. So thanks for the community push, especially Sylvia. I did want to clarify, though, as I may have caused some confusion. My reservations were not about being embarrassed about being a pilot. In fact, quite the opposite, and I would certainly wear that title with great pride. But when you tell people as a father of two that you want to give up your stable job and all that security and spend tens of thousands of pounds on training with no guarantee of employment, there's a tendency amongst those who don't understand the industry or that gripping desire to fly that we all share to assume that you're not really at all serious and that you may be going through something akin to a midlife crisis. For those you are close to, it's obviously not a problem, and I'm certainly not going to let it dampen my drive. Thankfully, I have a wife who is 100% behind me, and we know from recent conversations on recent episodes of APG and from Captain Nick's interview with his wife Ginny, which was fantastic, by the way, and thank you for that, but how important that support is. The reason I wanted to share this is that there may be people in the community that don't have the support in their personal lives, and so the views of those in the periphery may have a bigger influence on their decision to pursue their dream. As I alluded to in my previous feedback, even though my wife Hannah is behind me and actively encouraging me now, it took a long time and a lot of building trust to get to the point where she could see how this could work without compromising the security our family needs. This isn't a side that is talked about much, but if there's anyone in the community that is struggling with that support, my advice would be it takes time, but persevere gently. Your family has to be number one, and although you might know that and can say it until you're blue in the face, the key is you have to show it. If you want them to support you in your dreams, then you have to demonstrate to them that you'll always do the same for them. And if things start looking unstable in the approach, like all good pilots, you need an escape plan and need to be prepared to go around and hold for a while. Maybe even divert, to take the analogy to another level. Unlike most other jobs, becoming and even being a pilot requires a group effort, and support from your family, as it will undoubtedly have a knock-on effect, both positive and negative. It's been a fascinating chain of discussion over recent episodes and has certainly put things in perspective for me, so thank you to Josine, who I think kicked it all off. Finally, changing tack slightly, I wanted to shed some light on why Captain Nick may have taken a greater exception than the rest of the crew to the Air France passenger that took his pants and shoes off during a flight. I think it might come down to one of those little discrepancies between American English and proper English. Over here, taking one's pants off denotes a different degree of exposure than should undoubtedly be confined to the privacy of one's bedroom or one's bathroom. I hope to be updating you on my progress in the near future, so watch this space. Squawking 7,000 for now. I'll let Nick explain that one. Tom.
Explain that one. Nick, squawking 7,000.
I didn't get the 7,000 bit. Squawking 7,000. I know what pants are.
Yeah. Okay. Was that what he was referring? I
don't know. Could you play that bit again? Because I missed it.
Let me see. I think I can do that.
And while you're doing that, I thought of that exact same show when we were talking about boxer shorts. And I was at the airport traveling as a positive space passenger in Hawaii and saw a lady wearing boxer shorts. So, yeah. So that immediately popped. No, she was a very attractive lady. I didn't mind seeing her in boxer shorts, but that immediately came to mind. So it's almost like a double standard because people don't wear a whole lot anymore.
Yeah.
One's bedroom or one's bathroom. I hope to be updating you on my progress in the near future, so watch this space. Squawking 7,000 for now. I'll let Nick explain that one. Tom.
Okay, so I guess it's the same equivalent to squawking 1,200 here in the U.S., which is the VFR.
Yeah. It's VFR squawk so that you could be identified as someone who's not been allocated a squawk, and you can still be seen on the transponder. I haven't done it for how many years?
Yeah,
25 years. So I was going. Yeah, but of course, Cat Alan Pip has set me straight very quickly.
Yes, I see that.
Thank you, guys.
And Tom, sorry, we took your initial audio feedback the wrong way. We thought you were embarrassed to say that you were embarrassed about becoming a pilot, but that wasn't it. It was like leaving the great job that you have and taking that great risk. And yeah, we understand. It's must be some sort of difficult to do that.
And of course, you guys know what pants are in English, don't you?
I can't, remind me.
Well, they're short for underpants.
Okay.
So if someone say you take your pants off, yeah.
Okay.
Your gentleman's knickers.
Right? I think we're talking over each other. So if you take your pants off, then that would be the equivalent of going commando here in the U.S.?
Yes, it would. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Birthday suit.
Well, but you could still have your trousers on top without the pants underneath. And that would be the going commando.
Yeah, true.
Okay, here we go. Let's do this one before we get to the plain tale.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
Why do people think commandos go around without any underwear?
Well, I think it's just common knowledge, isn't it?
I can't think.
No idea.
I can't think. You imagine going to war as a commando, and I can't be bothered to put your underpants on.
I really have no idea why that phrase is used to describe someone not wearing undergarments. But yeah, language is an interesting thing, I guess. Okay, Jason, just quickly here. Hi, Captain Jeff. I just discovered your podcast, and I think it's great. I'm on episode 120 now. Ooh, he's got a long way to go. And you discussed a weather tool that will give you a 36-hour window on storm predictions. You didn't actually say the name, but said it would be in the show notes. When I tried to dig up the notes, I couldn't find anything. Yeah, I promise a lot of things. I very rarely deliver. Do you happen to remember what the tool was called? Yeah, the tool is Captain Nick.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I resemble that remark.
Yes, you do. I fly a Hawker, and I'm always interested to find good weather options. Thank you, Jason Adams. Now, I don't remember episode 120 at all. I barely remember what I did yesterday. But I can tell you some of the tools that I use now quite often with my smartphone and tablet device. One I really love, it's called Tropical Tidbits. That's www.tropicaltidbits.com, analysis/models. And it has some great tools in there to look at weather projections into the future. The one I really enjoy using for the short range is the the high resolution. Here, I'm trying to pull it up right now while I'm talking about it so I can sound somewhat intelligent, which is very, very difficult for me.
Impossible for me.
Let's see. Well, it starts off with the GFS on the left side, and this will give you like 6-hour increments for several days ahead, and it kind of gives you some idea of the weather patterns and that kind of thing. The thing I really enjoy, though, is the mesoscale tab, and slide down to the HRRR, the high resolution. What does that actually stand for? High resolution. I don't know, reflectivity or something like that. And it has a little scale or slider that you can look at the forecasts incremented hourly, and it projects into 18 hours into the future. I really like that. It really gives me an idea of where storm systems are likely to be at your arrival time in different places. So this is a tool I use a lot, the mesoscale HRRR product on tropical tidbits. Another place I go to a lot is aviationweather.gov and their convection page. So that's aviationweather.gov/convection. And it gives all kinds of great tools for convective segments. Let's see, they use these abbreviations. Extended convective forecast plot is and gives these forecasts for convective activity. It also has, let's see, what's this other one called? It's all on the same page, the convection page of the Aviation Weather Center. The TFM convective forecast. I'm not sure what that stands for, TFM, but it gives you a 4-hour, a 6-hour, and an 8-hour forecast for convective activity.
Totally freaking magic.
That's it. Thank you, Dana. And also, of course, the one that a lot of people have access to, the SPC, the Storm Projection Center, Storm Prediction Center, maybe convective outlook, which gives you a convective outlook for every 24 hours in the next 3 to 8 days, I believe. Anyway, lots of good stuff out there. Those are two of the sites that I use quite often. And then Weather Underground, which is wunderground.com, is the tool that I use to look at temperatures and forecasts before I leave on my trip to see what I should pack, to see if I should have shorts and short sleeve shirts, or long pants and long sleeve shirts and jackets and that kind of thing, or both. And it gives a pretty good idea of what the weather is going to be like in your layover spots. At least that's what I use it for. They have a lot of good tools on this Weather Underground site, including NEXRAD, radar, and such. So what are your favorite weather tools, guys?
Well, it doesn't make much difference to me. I'm not going to land for like 8 hours.
That's true.
It's always changed.
Yeah.
I find TAFs are quite good.
Yeah. Well, old school. That's for sure. But, yeah. I look at those as well. Those are our official weather products that we are required to have and to review. But this is just what I just mentioned were things just to enhance my
Dark Skies. That's one of my favorite.
I agree. It's a great app for your phone,
and it's particularly good at the next hour. Are you going to be able to finish this game of lawn bowls, or is the rain going to hit you before you get done?
And by the way, that is a great app for your phone and tablet. And if you want the web version of Dark Sky, it is actually, I'm trying to find it, forecast.io. And that is where they get the data.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Forecast.
It is usually very accurate. I mean, if there's a rain shower coming, it'll say it'll arrive in 9 minutes.
Or as accurate as meteorologists can be.
Which is, not very accurate at all.
But no, they're getting it from radar data, so they can usually watch it progress and see what it's going to hit and when it's going to hit. That's why it's very good for short-term stuff.
Yeah.
So like when I'm in the hotel van heading to the airport, I will. I'm not going to. really give them a big kudos. But for a high level overview of the radar, a lot of times I'll use the Weather Channel app, which a lot of people don't like, but I just use it for a high level overview. When we're talking about storms within the vicinity, I use this app called My Radar, which is very, very good. That's for
great app. Yes.
Yeah. Great app for using for local radar and giving you a really good picture. Of course, officially we have to use the company derived information through the computer. That's not always easily accessible in the flight deck, so that's why I'll use my dispatcher, which is what I find very helpful, especially when I'm trying to get a high level picture, because we've got our own meteorology department. So that's one of the things that I like to refer to. Nick, you mentioned TAFs. We generate our own TAFs, and they tend to be a lot more accurate, I think, than the National Weather Service. So not that I'm touting our department, but they do an excellent job of giving us a lot of information.
I thought that was a government product.
What's that?
The terminal area forecasts are NOAA. The turbulence plots, the TPs, are our product.
Actually, TAFs are national, our NOAA, but also the company that's put them out. Like they have Metro. When it says Metro, it's the company product.
Okay.
So,
well, I disagree.
Well, for the hubs, they don't do them from all of them, but for the hubs, they do their own forecast.
Okay. Oh, but they're not called TAFs.
Yeah, they're not called TAFs. It'll say, I think it says Metro. I think that's what it says.
Gotcha. Okay.
So and they'll be in the comments. Will say which meteorologist within the company has produced that product. So it's when I worked in the OCC. We were directly involved with those guys. They're right behind where I sat.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, My Radar, by the way, one of the best.
You have your own radar?
Yeah, I have my own radar.
You have everything.
I do. It's mine.
MYRADAR. By the way, the thing I really love most about the My Radar app is the name of the company that produces it.
Oh, very good. Acme. Lovely. Our own weather.
Atronomatic or something like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And here is a
Atronomatic. Who's Ron?
I don't know. The world's most popular weather radar app.
Is it actually worldwide, or is it worldwide in America?
I don't know.
But it's very good, and you can use that for high level looking and stuff. But it's so detailed; it usually takes a little longer to load. So if I'm just looking for a quick overview, that's why I'll use the Weather Channel, because it's not very accurate, and it gives you at least a high level view of everything.
I'm not a big fan of the Weather Channel, actually.
I'm not either. Just for the.
I like their TV program. Turning that on in the room or whatever. But as far as their internet products, don't like them.
Funny enough, my airline manufacturer gives me my own radar,
and you get to carry it with you.
Yeah, in the airplane. Yes, in fact, I've got 2 of them.
How about that?
Yeah,
I can't claim it's My Radar though, because it's really belongs to the airplane and the airline. But okay.
So is it called My Radar Weather Radar?
No, just called My Radar app. MYRADAR.
My Radar. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So there you go, Jason. Hope that helped. And thanks for discovering our show. And we hope to hear more from you in the future. And with that, I think now is a good time to play this week's installment of the very, very popular part of our show. The favorite, actually. Plain Tales.
The old pilot's Plain Tales. Pie in the sky. One of the very few genuine SC-5A fighters left in the world has been dangling from the rafters of the Science Museum in London since 1939. But a fighter with no guns and a civilian livery always has a tale to tell. In the days immediately before World War I, an accidental discovery was made. If low viscosity oil inadvertently found its way into a hot exhaust, it would vaporize, creating a vast and dense cloud of white smoke without any real detriment to the engine. In these early days of flight, any such discovery was investigated for its possible usefulness in war. In this case, smoke signals to ground troops or a defensive fog to confuse attackers was thought possible. An aspiring aviation engineer at the time was one John Clifford Savage. Born in 1891 and apprenticed to Claude Graham White in 1909, Savage had a flair for the theatrical and broke off his engineering career in order to become the manager and agent to B.C. Hucks, the first Englishman to loop the loop. It was not until the early days of peace that the idea of making smoke trails was revived. During the war, Savage had been a lieutenant in the Royal Naval Flying Service, rising to become a major in the newly formed Royal Air Force. But with the onset of peace, he was wondering what to do with his future. He tried his hand at being a journalist, writing for the Flight magazine under the nom de plume Oh So Blue, but that lacked a certain je ne sais quoi. By 1921, Mad Jack Savage had revisited the idea of producing smoke and experimented with making first shapes and then letters in the air, and the art of skywriting was born. There is some small controversy as to whether Jack was the very first skywriter, since a certain American aviator was thought to have produced some airborne writing back in 1915 during the marvelous Panama Pacific International Exposition in San Francisco, California. The exposition was a huge affair, designed to showcase all that was best in the United States. The centerpiece was the Tower of Jewels, which rose to 435 feet and was constructed from thousands of glass nova gems, which sparkled during the day and were illuminated by over 50 powerful searchlights at night. There were displays of agriculture, art, manufacture, food, education, industry, and transport, to name just a few. Lincoln Beechey, a pioneer American aviator and barnstormer who had become famous and wealthy from his flying exhibitions, was due to put on a display, but sadly, in front of a crowd of 250,000, his aircraft broke up during a loop, and he was killed in the subsequent crash. In his place, an airman called Art Smith took to the air and, after a series of breathtaking stunts, was credited with writing "Good Night" with fireworks attached to his wings at the conclusion of his displays. However, sadly, there is little or no mention of it in any histories written about him. Back in the United Kingdom, the entrepreneurial Jack Savage had been in search of aircraft fit for the job of skywriting, and he settled on the Royal Aircraft Factory SE-5A. This was not the most agile fighter of the war, but unlike the Sopwith Camel, it had a Wolseley Viper V8 engine that was easy to fix and which had a sizable pair of exhaust pipes. In addition, the aircraft were in plentiful supply. More than 2,500 of them had been sitting around since the end of the war, and they were cheap and easy to buy. Savage grabbed 33 of these unwanted fighters and converted them into bespoke skywriting aircraft at his Hendon premises. When selling his services in later years, Savage declared that, as a wartime fighter, the SE-5A was considerably stronger than was needed to endure the stresses of skywriting. He modified the machines by extending the exhaust pipes through a hole cut in the tail, which, suitably lagged with asbestos, acted as the nib for Savage's aerial pen, and rechristened the aircraft the Savage Woolsey SE-5A. The smoke-generating oil was stored in front of the cockpit, where the machine gun previously sat, and was delivered by a new control on the instrument panel, whilst the pilot's headrest was removed in order to grant a better rearward view. Finally, the old drab camouflage of dark olive and cream linen was replaced by an all-over silver finish. Savage's inventiveness caused a sensation when his Skywriting SE-5A made its very first public debut at the 1922 Epsom Derby. A bumper crowd for one of the biggest racing weekends of the year were enthralled as the silver speck 10,000 feet above them spelt out Daily Mail in vast white letters, which the newspaper later claimed was the greatest single development in outdoor advertising, and that everyone within the area of 100 square miles, and there were millions, gazed spellbound at this fascinating sight. It was certainly a hit with the public and the advertisers as well. Among those in the VIP enclosure at Epsom were none other than the leading novelist of the day, Virginia Woolf, who used a description of the occasion in her very next book. Flushed with success, Savage shipped one of his aircraft to the USA, with another ex-RAF pilot, Cyril Turner, at the controls. Savage's SE-5A carefully wrote, "Hello, USA," in the sky above New York. The following day, the silver speck reappeared, writing, "Call Vanderbilt 7100. The number put potential advertisers through to the hotel where Savage was staying, and the demand for his $1,000 service was insatiable. The New York Times wrote that, hovering in his plane over Times Square and other points over the city, he aroused the curiosity of many by smoke casting a telephone number, asking those who could read to call up. The number was that of a hotel whose press agent promptly issued a statement that 47,000 calls of inquiry had been received. Savage's business thrived on both sides of the Atlantic. His 33 fighter aircraft were equipped with radios so he could give personal instructions to the men at the controls while they labored away. The biggest European success for Savage's skywriters came in 1928, when he was employed to promote the Persil brand of detergents. The response was swift and impressive. The Persil script stood a heroic 1 mile tall and stretched a full 4 miles across the sky. Some 45 million cubic feet of smoke had to be generated in order to make the letters. The pilots also had to fly their route in reverse, no easy task, so that it could be read from below, something that took many rehearsals of the complex maneuvers until they became second nature. The campaign was such a success that for decades many European countries would call a cloudless sky a Persil sky. From the North Sea to the Mediterranean, whenever there was a sunny afternoon, people would glance up to see if a flashing silver dot would appear and make its magical message above them. Although his fleet of SE-5As grew tired, Savage stayed in business until 1939, but one by one the old fighters were pensioned off, usually going to breakers' yards, but not always. In 1934, 2 of his aircraft, registered Golf Echo Bravo India Alpha and Golf Echo Bravo India Charlie, went to new homes, and they can now be seen resplendent in their wartime specifications in the RAF Museum Hendon and the Shuttleworth collection at Old Warden. By the 1st of June 1939, only one aircraft was left in Savage's keeping. He sat down with one of his last sheets of headed paper and wrote a note to the Science Museum in South Kensington. Dear Sir, I have one genuine wartime SE-5A aeroplane left out of a considerable number I used to own. I cannot remember whether the museum has a specimen of this really rather historic type of aeroplane, and if it has not, I will be only too pleased to present the museum the machine to which I have referred above. Yours faithfully, J.C. Savage. This kind offer was of course accepted, and so Golf Echo Bravo India Bravo has been preserved intact, not only as an example of this legendary fighter of World War I, but also as an icon of the advertising industry. As for Major Savage, he had already added another invention to his CV, the crop spraying aeroplane, which found tremendous use in the USA and Australia in particular. As the Second World War approached, he used his engineering knowledge to found Savage and Parsons Limited, which developed an array of sound locators and searchlights, including the Lee Light anti-submarine technology, which was to prove vital in World War II. Jack Savage died in September 1945, but he left a remarkable legacy to the world of aviation. Of the 6 genuine SE-5A aircraft still in existence, 3 are ex-Savage machines. And while the silver example which hangs in the Science Museum may not be the first thing to catch one's eye, it's certainly worth a second look. Of course, the world of skywriting didn't die with Jack Savage. Many major companies saw messages in the sky as a great way to reach an audience of thousands. So brands like Ford, Chrysler, and Lucky Strike Tobacco were having their names emblazoned across the skies of America. Television soon eclipsed the reach of the skywriters, but it remained an important way to attract an audience to events such as air shows and festivals. But the skills required to make legible words using a single aircraft were considerable. Much planning had to go into each letter, and it had to be flown with great precision and skill, turning the smoke on and off with very precise timing, and the pilot required superb spatial awareness, not something that was easily found amongst those willing to take on such a job. The answer was a new form of writing that those of you old enough to remember how a dot matrix printer works will easily understand. The modern equivalent of the aerobatic maneuvers and tight turns of the skywriters is to fly straight and level and let a computer do the job. Sky typing uses the same basic equipment, but with a fleet of at least 5 aircraft flying in close formation. The letters are formed by each aircraft delivering a single puff of smoke at a precise point as calculated by the computer. With each aircraft delivering their dots in perfect synchronicity, the letters, words, and even entire sentences are formed. It's even possible to alter the prose almost immediately as events change, like a huge version of the ticker tape display in Times Square. It can be quite costly to pay for a formation of 5 aircraft to deliver your message, so a considerably cheaper version is the well-known flying banner. I say well-known as there are many, many pilots sitting proudly in the seats of airliners all over the world who built their hours to gain that treasured airline transport pilot certificate by droning up and down the beaches of Florida, pulling an advertising banner for Joe's Diner or Slick Sam's second-hand car sales. Other flying advertisements are attached to helicopters and even aerostats. blimps or airships, depending on their construction, which can not only carry a huge logo painted on the side, hands up who hasn't seen the Goodyear blimp, but can also carry vast electronic boards which can flash up messages at will. Hot air balloons have been made in a variety of forms, like 2 enormous cartoon bees to advertise a furniture removal firm in Australia, and a vast pair of flying underpants emblazoned with paddy power, just to name 2. Other technologies available for the discerning advertiser, including flogos. These are made from a soapy bubble foam, constructed from water and helium plus magic ingredients and pressed into the shape of a letter or logo, and then pumped into the sky to spell out words or just display a shape. More recently, quadcopter drones bearing bright lights were used to create complex, coordinated displays in what has been described as flocking or swarming behavior. In 2018, 1,218 drones were used in a performance during the opening of the Winter Olympics in South Korea, and the same technology was used to put an enormous W into the sky over Los Angeles to mark the release of the Wonder Woman movie. Perhaps the oldest type of flying advert still used to this day are kites. This stretches back to ancient China's fabled use of kites to send political or military messages and religious celebration symbols. In contrast, possibly the most modern is the use of flight tracking software, such as Flight Tracker and Flight Radar 24, other applications are available, which pilots have used to draw virtual messages in the sky, the results of which are then posted onto social media. Many have spelt out words, one recently being spring, with a picture of a tulip. Another pilot, presumably building ours, wrote, "I'm bored," and added a couple of graffiti images more often found on toilet doors, something that the Navy had already done with contrails. Out of interest, smiley faces, hearts, political messages, etc. have all littered the skies over the world, except those of the United Kingdom. Skywriting in the United Kingdom has apparently been illegal since the 1930s, when a law was passed which prevented aerial advertising in UK airspace. It was enacted following the aerial dropping of fascist propaganda leaflets over London during World War II. Although the Civil Aviation Authority and the Department of Trade have now approved the activity, the law has yet to be ratified by Parliament. Whatever message you may want to write in the sky, it can be a great way to attract attention. Not all have gone well, though. Marriage proposals have been made with skywriting. Some followed a few days later with the emphatic message, "No." One skywriter with a sense of humor wrote, "How do I land?" with another on the same theme writing, "O-S-H-I," before the trail wriggled earthwards and disappeared. Someone with a message to send wrote, "Go F," I can't really finish that word, but he did, "yourself." One unintentional crudity occurred when "Happy Birthday, Clint," written in capital letters, said something completely different when the L and the I of Clint sadly merged into a single letter. Skywriting has reached the record books as well. In 2012 over San Francisco, and again in 2014 over Austin, Texas, the largest piece of artwork ever created was visible. It was the mathematical constant defined as the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, calculated to 1,000 decimal places. Each number was 1/4 mile high, and the string of numbers was produced in a huge loop 100 miles long. It was, of course, pie in the sky.
Another wonderful plain tale by the old pilot, the old curmudgeon, Captain Nick.
Thank you, Jeff.
Another fantastic job. Absolutely agree.
Cheers. I thought we needed something with a slightly lighter subject.
Yes, you are absolutely correct, sir. And you mentioned skywriting, and one of the last things you were talking about is flight tracking software and that kind of thing.
Yep.
Well, one of our APG community members and a gentleman who hosts his own podcast, Flying and Life, we know him as Dispatcher Mike. He went up in his newly repaired, Beechcraft Musketeer, November 2324 Lima, I believe. And he, to mark the beginning of this season, spring, went up and doodled a beautiful flower and wrote out in cursive, spring.
Well, that was the one I was referring to. I didn't know it was Mike, though. So my apologies, Mike, for not including you as the author.
Oh, you didn't know it was Mike's?
No,
Okay.
I didn't. I saw it, and I thought, and it just flicked through my, Twitter thing, and I went, "Oh, look, that's good. Someone's spelt spring," but I didn't really twig that Mike had done it. Well done, sir.
You can see Noonan. That's where the airplane is based, and he takes off.
So that's spring, and that's a Venus flytrap on top, is it?
Looks like it, yeah.
No, I'm only joking. It looks very good.
Dana, do you understand now why I have that on there?
Yes, I now do. Yes.
Okay.
Understood.
Very good. So the people watching the video can see the doodle. We'll put that in the show notes as well.
Great job. It must take a lot of planning to do one of those.
I think so. I'm not sure exactly how. Maybe he can tell us sometime how he does that. He must have some kind of a program that he uses to come up with the plots, whatever.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine you can, plot it using GPS.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure it's GPS related somehow. Anyway, I figured there must be some enterprising person out there that has some kind of an app built specifically for making Sky-doodles or whatever you call them. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe, hey, there's an opportunity for somebody out there.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. So thanks again, Captain Nick, for the uplifting story of skywriting.
Unless you've just made a marriage proposal and your fiance said no.
No.
Yeah, or your potential fiance.
Uplifting.
That would be bad.
That would be very bad.
That would be a wow moment.
Wow.
That would.
Yeah, I guess that's time for
wow.
There we go. Let's get back to our long list of Facebook items. Facebook feedback. I see FB in my head and I say Facebook. Wow. That's bad.
You've been programmed.
I know. Facebook. All right. Steve writes in a technical question, if I may. A few weeks ago, I flew KLM from Mexico City to Amsterdam on a 747-400, Nick's favorite aircraft type. Actually, I think Nick does like the...
Oh, I love them. Yes, absolutely.
As a regular long-haul flyer on 787s and 350s, come on, you can hold it in. I have to say, it felt like stepping onto a museum exhibit when I boarded. Oh.
Well, that's why they're so nice.
Liz, anytime you get anything else in the future from Steve, go ahead and just delete it. Things seemed to be going smoothly, and we pushed back on time, and I could hear the engine starting up and so on. Great. Then, after a few minutes of waiting, the captain came on the PA to say that they were having problems starting one of the engines and were troubleshooting. A few minutes later, we'd taxied back to the gate and some engineers came on board. At this point, I was rapidly losing faith I would make my connection in Amsterdam. A few minutes later, the captain announced that they were going to try a different method to start the problematic engine, but needed to do this on the stand, which would take a few more minutes to organize. By the way, the other engines were still running at this point. After another short wait, I heard the distinctive sound of the engine spooling up. The captain came back on the PA to announce all was well. They just needed the engineer to sign off the paperwork, and then we would be on our way. I was impressed with how they coordinated with the engineers to solve the problem fast. I know you guys have never flown the 747, and there could be many reasons for this problem, but based on your experience, what do you think might have been the problem, and what could have been the alternative method used to start the engine on stand to solve the problem? Thanks, as always, for your great work. It's great to be part of the APG community. Cheers, Steve Hurst. And I know that every single one of us airline pilots have the answer, or at least I know for sure what it was.
Well, I think I know what it was.
I think we all
I know what it is too.
Manual start valve.
You got it.
Yeah,
Ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
I was going to say they lost the key to the clockwork, but
That could have been it as well. Yeah,
the air start valve was my other answer.
yes. But I'm thinking okay, then that kind of has something to do with the start, the manual, the start valve.
It was just the
so
start
they
valve,
just
the
need-
auto function, or the ability to open it up remotely from the flight deck was probably incapacitated, and thus maintenance personnel had to go out there and manually open up the start valve and then manually close it.
Right. Normally it's an electronic thing, I believe.
Yes.
That occurs and the valve opens up and the air flows into the engine to get it spinning. And in this case, that function wasn't, working. And so I think every airplane that I've flown has the ability to use a manual to activate the valve manually. And it usually involves finding the panel on the cowling of the engine. It's like a specific, you don't have to normally raise the entire cowling of the engine. It's just like a small, where you'd open up the door for your petrol cap or your gas cap, as we say in the US, and open that door open, and usually involves putting some kind of a wrench or some kind of a tool in there and inserting it in and turning it a quarter of a turn or a half a turn or whatever, and that manually opens the valve. The air is directed into the engine from the pneumatic system. The engine spins, it starts up, and then the mechanic or the engineer manually reverses the procedure and closes the valve, and you're good to go. And the paperwork required is something because, you had to annotate that you used the manual start method, the start valve method to start the engine, and there you have it.
Well, and the question may come up, well, what happens if you have an in-flight shutdown? You had to restart that engine, and you don't actually need to have air to go to the engine as long as it's not damaged, because when you are flying through the air, it will be free spooling. So you wouldn't actually need to add air to start the engine in flight.
Right.
Yeah, we call it a windmill start. Now, do you guys have an intercom point on your engines so that you can speak to the man with the tool, with the big long tool?
Well,
I'm assuming
he's got a
big long
tool.
tool because your engines are well above the engineer's head.
No, they'll put they usually have like a platform that they raise up to stand on.
Okay.
Or some
platform
to stand, or like a golf cart or whatever back there. But yes, we do. I've seen it done that way. I've also seen it done with like cell phones and or not cell phones, but walkie-talkies. One back in the back and the mechanic up in the front.
Okay. So you don't have the man with the message in the cleft stick that passes it up to the flight deck and you pull it off and read it. No? Okay.
Or actually, on the Mad Dog, we use smoke signals sometimes.
Oh, well, yeah, I've seen Mad Dogs do that, actually, where you must be sending lots of messages to each other.
Lots of messages. Yeah. So, Steve, there you go. There's your answer. That was a manual start valve malfunction.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Let's see. Dana, you said you're going to have to go pretty soon, huh?
Yeah. Pretty tightly scheduled day today.
Okay.
All the way through, including into tomorrow morning.
Okay. Well, do you want to say goodbye now, and then you can just leave whenever you need to?
If that's good with you, I appreciate that.
Sure.
I know, and I feel bad because you guys adjusted the schedule so that I could be here today. But
that's okay. We got you for most of the show. We're getting
most of it. Just a few minutes left anyway. So
yeah.
Thank you guys, and great to see everybody again. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Have a great day out there riding that motorcycle and all the other stuff that you're going to do.
We're going to a big wings festival, then the trivia night dinner banquet, then a buddy's birthday party. So that's why I said I have a tightly scheduled day today.
All right. Well, have fun, man.
Yeah, have a good time.
Good to see
Great
you.
seeing you. Hey, Nick, feel better, my friend.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Glaucus sent an article about quiet supersonic boom. Hope everybody's well. I'm just listening to episode 354, and I hope the crew had a great time in Miami. Yes, we did. Special mention to Liz, and thanks for her fantastic work. Yes, it can't be said enough. Looking towards the future, see below a link to an article regarding the developments on the supersonic technology and its effect on the population. The most common and less popular is the sonic boom. Do you think supersonic travel will again become a reality, both from a technical and an economical perspective? Looking forward to hearing your views. Keep the blue side up and enjoy the end of winter. We are at the tail end of our summer and looking forward to some cool weather. Lastly, if any of the APG community members are keen to organize a meetup in Sydney, please let me know. Okay, so hey, if you're out there listening, you're in the Sydney area, you want to organize an APG meetup, contact me and just make it to meetup at airlinepilotguy.com. I believe that's a valid email address. If not, Jeff at airlinepilotguy.com. And I'll send all correspondence to Glaucus. That'd be a great thing, I think. Anyway, the article that he references, the headline, proposed passenger jet could reach supersonic speeds. And it talks about NASA's research in this. And this article really deals with something that they did with photography. And it says, as part of its research, NASA has captured unprecedented photos. It says, are the first images of the interaction of shockwaves from two supersonic aircraft in flight. The pictures show two T-38 supersonic jetliners. No.
Jetliners?
I flew with the T-38, and it's definitely not a jetliner. That's fine.
How many passengers did you carry?
None. Two pilots, or one pilot. Anyway, two T-38 supersonic jets tearing through the atmosphere and creating sonic shockwaves. Thanks to some heavy-duty upgrades to their camera technology, NASA scientists could hardly believe what they saw when the images were developed. We never dreamt that it would be this clear, this beautiful, said J.T. Hynek of NASA's Ames Research Center in a statement. Shockwaves are created by aircraft flying faster than the speed of sound. The shockwaves produced by aircraft merge together as they travel through the atmosphere and are responsible for what is heard on the ground as a loud sonic boom. Ultimately, NASA wants to design a supersonic aircraft that rumbles rather than booms when it crashes through the sound barrier. So anyway, check out the article that he referenced, and some beautiful enhanced photography. Wouldn't you agree, Captain Nick?
Yeah, it does. It really allows you to visualize what's happening and is normally invisible. I mean, you can actually see your shockwave when you're supersonic because it has a slight change in refractive index. And if the light is right, you can, a bit like looking at a stick you've pushed into some water, the stick appears to change angle, it bends. In the same way, when you in the right conditions, you can see light move, change through the shockwave. But this is a perfect illustration of how they form, where they form, what they look like, how far they spread out. And of course, because they've been done in beautiful Technicolor, it does look very impressive.
And also how they interact with the, so as mentioned in the article, the two T-38 jetliners are traveling very close to each other. And it's interesting to see how the shockwave on the lead aircraft interacts with the shockwave of the trailing jet. And so,
yeah, very much so. I mean, these type of photographs have been around since before aircraft went supersonic, because there were supersonic wind tunnels, and they were able to photograph the effects through special spectrographic cameras, what the shock waves look like. But this is the first time I've ever seen images of shock waves of an aircraft in flight. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. Again, we'll have that in the show notes. Thanks, Glaucus. And hopefully those of you listening in the Sydney area will get together. And if you do, we'd love to hear about it. photos and audio, please.
Boom.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like.
Oh, that what it sound like? So what is it going to sound like if it's just a rumble, a sonic rumble?
Yeah, well, I'm trying to work out how they're going to turn boom into a rumble.
I don't know.
Neither do I.
I'm going to have to do that because that is really the biggest drawback, I think, to supersonic flight, especially over populated areas.
Yeah.
We'll see. Right. And do we think if it's going to happen? I think it's got a good chance. A lot of companies are sinking a lot of money into it, so I would imagine that it's got a fighting chance.
Yep.
Robert from Marietta, or as we say, Mayretta, writes in, "Hi guys, when do pilots start thinking about what jet to train on next when these retirement decisions hit the news? Or do unions drive these decisions some? In IT, where I work, it's usually trying to foresee that a product is dying or you've lost your job and you're forced to regroup where you can. Hope everybody's doing well." Yeah, so, I think we've talked about it a few times on the show where at least, well, I guess it depends on the airline, really, but most of the big legacy carriers here in the U.S., and we talked about it toward the beginning of the show in the intro when Dana was talking about where he might move and such, and basically what they'll do is they'll put out at least we call it an advance entitlement or surplus bid. And they're basically saying, okay, here's the deal. We're going to lop 240 captains off the Mad Dog category in Atlanta. And so because, we're retiring airplanes, we have this many positions available, and which is a surplus if you are retiring airplanes. And so, we have too many of these positions. We're getting rid of them. So if you're out there and you think you might be vulnerable to getting displaced or taken off in that position, make sure that you have your preferences, your bidding preferences in order, because if you are involuntarily displaced, we'll try to give you what you're asking us to give you if you have the seniority. So it has all to do with seniority and everything else. It's not like they'll just take the people that are on this airplane and train them on a different airplane, because, one pilot may go over here, like Dana might fly the 757, 767 as a first officer, or he might fly the Airbus 320 series as a first officer. Another one in Dana's seniority may decide to, commute to New York so he can continue to fly as a captain. It just depends. It's not like all these pilots, boom, you're going to go now fly this airplane and you're going to train on this one. So it's kind of an individual thing based on your seniority. And the only part that the unions play in this is that they're the ones that come up with the procedure for this to happen, and it's all done in contract negotiations. And when a contract is finalized, that's the way you follow all the procedures and such. And such. I'm using that a lot for some reason this episode. The article that Robert is referring to, I love the headline. I love it. It kind of goes along with the MD-88 wrap that we heard earlier today. Delta CEO Ed Bastian is retiring ancient jets, adding free Wi-Fi to win over customers. Andrew Barry from barons.com. I do not like you. They're not ancient jets. Okay. Anyway. Yes, sir. You want to say anything?
No, I don't. No, I want to make sure I get my money this week for a change.
You can get your paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. I'm saying nothing.
Let's see. 8. First Officer Corey Cave. Yeah. All right. First Officer Corey Cave here, formerly pipeline pilot guy. It's been a while since my last feedback, but while listening to your discussion about the Embraer 145 landing in Maine on episode 365, I figured I could give some quick information about the 145's approach capabilities. In the 145, coupled RNAV approaches are unable to follow the vertical guidance unless by manual means, either by following the FPA, which I think means flight path angle.
That's right.
Through vertical speed mode on the FGC flight
guidance computer.
Okay.
Or I don't know. I'm guessing on that one.
Yeah, I think you're right. Or by hand flying. Also, the 145 has the ability to do Cat 2 approaches as well. Captain Dana flew the Embraer 120 Brasilia, I believe, which a lot say is the same fuselage used for the 145, just with the addition of tail-mounted turbofan engines. And they took the propeller engines off the wings.
Oh, it wasn't a 4-engine airplane then.
Oh, wouldn't that have been cool? Huh?
Two turning, 2 burning.
Exactly. Thanks for the show and big updates soon to come. Ooh, that's good. Corey.
Oh, interesting.
Good to hear from you.
I wait with bated breath.
Yeah, I didn't think that Dana flew the Embraer 145. Captain Al did, though. Is he still in our chat room? Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Anyway, he had good things to say about it.
Captain Al, what's FGC mean, please?
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, though. Flight Guidance Computer. You pilots out there with all your stupid acronyms. We can't keep up with these.
Oh, yep. Apparently we're right.
Yes, very good. Ooh, not as much lag as we used to have. And that was a pretty quick answer. Okay. Speaking of Captain Al, Derek writes in and with wind. Sorry, Al.
Poor Ali's going to get a complex.
We just can't help ourselves. Hi, Captain Jeff, Dr. Steph, Captain Nick, Captain Dana, and Liz. My first feedback since Farnborough. Last Sunday, the 10th of March, I was out early walking my daughter's dog. Yes, I have been lumbered. What does that mean? I don't know what that term means. Lumbered.
I mean, you've been lumbered with a task. You've been given a task you weren't really wanting to do.
Okay, very good. Actually, she was working, so no real complaints. Anyway, I didn't realize that night we had horrific weather, and I was catching the tail end of a storm. It was still extremely windy, but now sunny with beautiful clear skies. I live in the county of Sussex, not too far from Gatwick. Nick will know. Normally, the planes are descending or stacking above my area, approximately 6,000 feet. Several planes flew overhead really low, I'm guessing about 2,000 feet. I could see the markings so clearly beautiful. Beautiful view of a Virgin Jumbo and a Dreamliner. Oh, it was the Jumbo's first flight. Being an aviation enthusiast, I do know the aircraft patterns in the area, but I've never seen them so low. Obviously, at higher altitudes, this varies with conditions. So is this normal? Do aircraft sometimes descend to a lower altitude to avoid certain conditions this close to the airport? Is this a normal procedure? Have any of you ever had to descend and hold lower to avoid extreme wind conditions? And I'm talking weather wind! Exclamation point. Thanks, guys, for the continuous great shows, Derek. What do you think, Nick?
Well, the bottom of a stack is defined. So when you're in a holding pattern, you may not go below a certain altitude, and that's written on your charts. So no, they won't be in the holding pattern. Just as try and find it out from the horse's mouth, I reached out to our good friend Adam Spink, who is our go-to man with any of these kind of questions. So Adam replied to me just only an hour or two ago and said, at a guess, I say he was seeing aircraft following missed approaches due to the weather. If he can let us know the date and time, I could use Flight Radar 24 to have a look at the aircraft in question. But we basically went back and forth a little bit, and I said, yeah, that sounds a perfectly likely explanation. So missed approach, obviously, if you've got bad weather and you've had to do a missed approach, you usually level off fairly low initially. The Heathrow missed approach, for example, initially levels off at only 2,000 feet. I'm not certain what the Gatwick ones are. I don't usually operate out of Gatwick, but it will be below the normal arrival patterns so that you deconflict. And that's exactly probably what you would have seen, aircraft in the missed approach being repositioned to have another go. And 2,000 feet would not be an unusual altitude for them, certainly initially.
So basically, wind did have something to do with it, not what he was thinking, but more to do with go-arounds, right?
Oh, very good.
Coming down.
Don't wait until your cycle's feet sliding on the
You can always go around. All right. Always have fun playing that when we can. And yeah, very good explanation. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Adam, for your input. We always appreciate it.
Yeah, he's a fine chap too, as well.
Oh, he is. Very upstanding young man. Yes, young compared to me at least, and Nick. I'm going to jump over to 13 because we kind of referred to this, or you just did actually, 2 burning and 2 turning, or 2 turning, 2 burning.
Yeah.
Although you're referring really to what, 3 turning and 4 burning?
No, 6 turning, 4 burning.
6. Darn it, I can't count. Anyway, referring to, of course, your plane tail. Some more of our bombs are missing in episode 364. And Bill writes, Captain Nick's excellent plane tail piqued my interest in the 1955 movie Strategic Air Command, starring Jimmy Stewart and the Convair B-36 Peacemaker. The movie is available for free to Amazon Prime members, and I'm assuming that's probably just the U.S., and I highly recommend it to all aviation buffs. It includes excellent air-to-air footage of the B-36 Peacemaker. The movie showed so much, I wonder if it did not give away secrets to the Russians.
Well, there were some beautiful aerial shots. There's no doubt about it, and they took a lot of time to make that. And I love the fact that they had an actor who was actually in the Air Force and a captain of those aircraft who was playing the part. I think it's brilliant.
Yes, I'm going to have to.
Jimmy Stewart.
I think I've seen pieces. I'm not sure if I've seen the entire movie. So
It's not one of my favorite movies of that time. It does go on a bit, but just a wee bit. But there are some fantastic bits, and it's worth watching just to see these fantastic airplanes fire, and to listen to the interactions of the crew and things. But there are slightly better aviation movies out there. But if you're a bit of a buff like I am, you will definitely enjoy it, because I enjoyed it.
Well, he continues, one of my favorite scenes showed the pulley system the crew used to go from the front to the back of the B-36 in flight. Not only that, the movie includes excellent footage of the Boeing RB-47H Stratojet. The takeoff scene with the RB-47H is amazing as it fires its rocket system during takeoff. Other aircraft like the Boeing KC-97, Boeing 377, and DC-3 make a cameo too. As a side note, the B-36, RB-47H, and KC-97 can all be seen on display in the United States Air Force Museum's Cold War display located in Dayton, Ohio. I can still remember standing under the massive B-36 with bomb bay doors open during a tour last summer. Excellent.
Yeah, that museum is on my bucket list.
Mine too.
One of these days, I want to get out and let's go do it together sometime.
You know what we should do? We should probably, instead of flying to Chicago to pick up the RV, we should drive, and we can just head up that way and then head over to Chicago.
Well, that would save me a lot of trouble, because that's the one bit of the journey I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do very easily.
Let's plan on that. Actually, I'm serious. Like, I've never seen that museum either.
Oh, well, I'll pay for the gas. That'd be great.
All right.
I'll
have plenty of gas.
Well, we'll bring Al in case we run out.
Okay. So where was I before I skipped forward to 13? I think I was on 9. This was kind of cute. I think some other aviation podcasts talked about this as well. This happened a little bit ago. This was from Mike Glover. You might enjoy this letter from a 10-year-old startup airline CEO to Qantas's CEO asking for advice and his reply. And let's see. The headline, "Please take me seriously. Boy, 10, pleads when asking how to start an airline. Alex Jacot, 10, has spunk. Alan Joyce, the head of Qantas Airlines, likes spunk." The story starts with...
That's not a word we would use very commonly in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, spunk has different connotations, different places. But in this case, we mean like, what would enthusiasm?
Get up and go.
Get up and go. Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess it could apply. Okay.
No.
Sorry. The story starts when Alex, having reached the age of peak cuteness, penned a letter to Joyce about Oceana, the airline Alex intends to start someday. Just one problem. He doesn't actually know anything about starting an airline. So he went old school and wrote a letter. And then he goes on, we'll include this in the show notes. It's a very cute letter. There's a photo of it. Dear Mr. Alan Joyce A.O. and others, maybe. I'm Alex Jacot. Is that right? Jacot? Yeah, a 10-year-old boy. Please take me seriously. He starts right off. Yeah, I'm 10, but don't stop reading. Take me seriously. And I want to start an airline. I've already started some stuff like what type of planes I'll need, flight numbers, catering, and more. I'm the CEO of the airline, which, by the way, is called Oceana Express. I've also hired a CFO, a head of IT, a head of maintenance, a head of onboard services, and a head of
legal.
Okay. Well, that was cut off, I guess, as well, along with my friend Wolf. And they blurred that out because, we don't want to, implicate Wolf into this. He probably didn't sign his release. He's going to be the vice CEO. Yeah, he talked to legal, apparently.
Yeah, sure. Or it could be Lego.
Lego, yeah.
No, yeah, it could for the Lego airplanes.
Lego.
Yeah.
We are both co-founders. I wanted to write to you because I wanted to ask you 3 things. Number 1, I like working on my airline. Seeing as it is the school holidays, I have more time to work, but I don't have anything to do that I can think of. Do you have any ideas of what I can do? Seeing as you are the CEO of Qantas, I thought I'd ask you. Number 2, do you have any tips on starting an airline? I'd be very grateful to know what you'd have to say. Yeah, don't. Number 3, I'm thinking about, as you are, an A350 for Sydney, Melbourne to London flights, seeing as it is a 25-hour flight. We are having a lot of trouble thinking about sleep. Do you have any advice? Hope to hear from you soon. Yours sincerely, Alex Jacot, CEO and co-founder of Oceana Express. Wouldn't it be funny if one of these days there really is an airline?
Yeah, it's a good name, actually, Oceana, for any airline that goes across the ocean, yes.
And then, of course, also in this article, a response from Alan Joyce of Qantas, and it's very cute. And he takes him seriously. He's not, demeaning or condescending in any way. And we'll put the contents of that response, that's the tease, in the show notes so you can read it yourself. Thanks, Mike. That was cute. Quickly from Greg, Maple Lake, Minnesota. I've been a long-time listener, although I've fallen behind. I used to have a 3-hour round-trip commute where I would listen to your episodes. However, I've been given work at home now and am having a hard time keeping up. Yeah, that's understandable. I was just wondering what happens to the pilots for airlines that fly the 737 MAX 8 right now. Do the airlines have some kind of insurance so that these pilots can keep getting paid a guaranteed income? Love your show. Thank you very much for doing this. And thank you, Greg, for being part of our community and participating by sending us in feedback. So, really, the 737 MAX 8 doesn't make up, for most airlines, at least here in the U.S., a great portion of the fleets. And for instance, I think the biggest airline that uses them here in the U.S. is Southwest. I think it makes up about 5% of their fleet. And then smaller percentages for American and United. And there is a system that, normally, I think all 3 of these airlines, if you are checked out to fly the 737 MAX 8, you're also checked out to fly the 737 NG or new generation jets. So they're just going to be flying their schedule like as normal. Just there aren't going to be as many airplanes out there. Maybe the hours will be reduced on them, but we do have something here in seniority-based airlines that are represented by union contracts called credit. So you are guaranteed to make a certain amount or get a certain amount of credit hours credited per day per flying and for how many days you're gone from home, etc. So, and if you're, and there's usually some kind of a provision for if something like this happens and you're not able to fly at all, you're guaranteed to get a certain minimum number of hours. And that's the way they pay us. We get hours of time, and then that translates to whatever the hourly rate is. and that's how our pay works. Unlike Nick's airline, where it's all salary. And in your case, Nick, if an aircraft model was taken out, it wouldn't really matter that much to you, right? Because you'd still get your salary.
That's exactly right. And the small portion that's made up of flight pay, there's a compensation if you can't fly your hours, and it's not down to your choice. So yeah,
right.
And most decent airlines would do that. There are, of course, some airlines that would work on a more, if you pitch up and fly, you get paid. If you don't fly, you don't get paid. They're the kind of airlines that both Jeff and I think are not ideal airlines, but unfortunately, some pilots starting their careers have to work those kind of conditions. They're never good, and the sooner you can get out of an airline like that, the better, because you get a problem like this, or say an ash cloud that grounds your fleet. If you don't get paid, you end up in pretty dire straits. So,
right,
if you're looking for a career, try and pick an airline that has a good solid reputation for looking after its pilots when these sort of things happen. It's just another of those areas you need to consider before you pick your airline.
Very, very true. Great advice. Wow. I think I'm going to skip 12 because that's kind of a long piece of feedback. Let's see. Tom Mandraki in Cincinnati, Ohio says, "Greetings, APG royalty." Oh, he somehow knew that both Nick and I were going to be here today, and not the rest of the crew.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Underlings.
Yeah. Been a long time since Cheryl and I met you all at the Pittsburgh Air Show. Yeah, that was a great time. Question for the airline pilots. When you guys recertify or train on your aircraft, are you always on a full motion simulator, or do you also use fixed base simulators? Also, are you required to simulate an entire flight or just a portion of one? I'd imagine the long haul guys would burn up a whole lot of sim time if they had to do an 8-hour to 12-hour flight. Yeah. What exactly is required? What exactly is required in those simulator sessions, aside from any emergency situations they may throw at you? Hope to see you at Oshkosh this summer. Keep up the great work on the show. Your humble and obedient servant, Tom Mandraki. Thank you, Tom. That is a quick, when I was reading this, Nick, I have to be honest with you, because, we kind of alternate at Acme every 9 months, the type of simulator training we're going to get. One series may be our maneuvers validation period or recurrent training, where we go and we do all the, the V1 cuts and all the different kind of recoveries from wind shear and ground proximity warning system things and all kinds of things like that. The next one, alternatively, would be the line-oriented flying training, where we go and actually do a flight from the moment you get in the cockpit with the paperwork you get and the communications that you would have with the flight attendant and the dispatcher and the tug driver and everything else in real time. And for us on the airplane that I fly, because we fly short to medium range type of flights, it's kind of realistic. We'll either go from, let's say a place like John F. Kennedy in New York to Philadelphia, which is a relatively short flight, or we might do a Portland, Oregon to Seattle flight, or, vice versa. So, it doesn't take, hours and hours and hours to do a realistic flight. What about you? What do you do in that? I know that you have line-oriented flying training, don't you?
Yeah, we do. And they do vary the scenarios. So it might be you've just been called out because the aircraft that was inbound has been diverted. And a good example would be one was recently diverted. Instead of landing at Atlanta, it went to Birmingham, Alabama. And you've been sent to Birmingham to pick up the aircraft because the crew are out of duty hours, and you're to position it to Atlanta. So that's how they would artificially generate a short trip.
Okay.
Or they would generate a normal flight, London to New York, that would normally take 7 hours. And you're pretty certain that after about an hour or two, you've done all the procedures, got it airborne, you're going to have an emergency sufficiently serious that you divert the aircraft. or have a turn back on the Atlantic or whatever. But they do actually write in the scenarios, not every flight will necessarily end with a landing. So you could have an in-flight emergency that you deal with, and you say, okay, that's fine, we've dealt with all that. We're now, and they made the decision to either carry on or divert. And if you decide to carry on and that's correct, then the guy will say, okay, that's fine. That scenario is over, and you move on to a different element of the simulator. Because our loft flights, although the majority are taken up with a simulated flight, there's always a number of compulsory items that are always done, which usually include the bits that you might have done had you had to do a landing off your loft.
That makes sense. As far as the first part of the question that Tom had, do we have to always use the full motion simulator, or can you also use fixed base simulators? And I can answer for Acme. The only time that we really use the fixed base simulators, Tom, is when we're getting checked out on a new aircraft type or new to us, where they don't need, in other words, you're going through procedures and flow patterns with checklists and that kind of thing. And it's not so critical that you are in an airplane that's actually on hydraulic jacks to simulate the flying part of it. Although I think that there are some companies that will use the fixed base, the non-motion simulators for that kind of flying as well, or a mix of that and the full motion simulators. But when we go, at least at Acme, when we're doing our recurrent training, once we're checked out on a particular airplane and we're going to our, once a year or once every 9 months or 6 months or whatever it is, they're always in the full motion simulators.
Yeah, I'd agree. Any of those formal checks that are an absolute confirmation of your flying ability must be done in a full motion simulator. And of course, a lot of them, particularly if it's a zero flight simulator, knows you're going to make your first flight with passengers and it'll be in a real airplane. You're not going to practice landing in an empty airplane just to see if you can do it. You're going to do everything in the simulator. That simulator has to be of a sufficient standard and have the visuals of a sufficient standard, and has to be certified by the authority of whichever country you're in, the FAA or the CAA in our case, to confirm that it's of a good enough standard to be able to conduct that type of training. It's all quite formal. And all the CIA have to check out those simulators, and they have to be maintained to a very high standard of realism to make sure that they're good enough to be able to complete that type of training.
Yes. All right, and I think this will be the last one. I think we're getting close to our 3-hour point. Item 15, Peter. Greetings from LaGuardia, where I'm writing you feedback from within the new Terminal B. Uh-oh, is he trapped there?
Probably. Is he like Tom Hanks?
Yes,
in the movie.
What was that called? Terminal?
Yes,
something like that.
Very funny.
I was curious about a recent discussion on the show about flashing your lights at night to help other aircraft better see your position. That led me to wonder, why don't you leave the landing lights on all the time? Smooth skies, etc. Peter. What do you think, Nick? Why don't you leave the landing lights on all the time?
Well,
Like
there
Motel
are
6.
some cases where a captain will decide to do that because he thinks that it's a safer way to fly. I remember chatting to engineers in Johannesburg. Now, the reason it was Joburg was because over Africa, air traffic control isn't of the same standard as perhaps other parts of the world. So you do take extra precautions. And a lot of captains were saying, well, not only am I going to do all these extra transmissions, not only am I going to sidestep from the center of the airway off to one side, I'm going to leave my landing lights on the whole time. And the engineers down at Joburg were going, well, we're replacing an awful lot of extremely expensive, very high powered bulbs. And not only that, the transformers behind the landing lights, they're not really designed to be on for hour after hour after hour. And we're losing a lot of those transformers. Some of them are burning out, etc. So Do you guys really have to leave your landing lights on for 8 or 10 hours? They're really, really bright lights. They produce a lot of candle power. And of course, now in modern technology, you probably find that you can get the same equivalent power with lower voltages. I don't know if LED lights are being used in landing lights yet, but it might get to that point, in which case you could. But usually there's no need, because you're under radar control, you're being well separated. We've got all these additional aids for avoiding each other, including the compulsory lights we need to carry, which are navigation lights, although I never thought they were very bright, and the actual legal requirements are actually very, I think, poor.
Yeah.
There's quite a low candle power or lumens level for navigation lights. So, I've never thought that was brilliant. But most aircraft have very high powered strobes, and the addition of landing lights, which are after all directional, they provide no protection for all around the rest of the aircraft. So having them on isn't necessarily a huge advantage, but we always put them on when we come below 10,000 feet. I think that's a general standard around the world.
That's really where you want to make sure that your people can see you. There's a lot more traffic below 10,000 feet. And the distances between aircraft diminishes when you are below 10,000 feet as well. But I was going to say something, or I'm looking at the discussion in the chat room about LED lighting, and believe it or not, and I know many of you will find it hard to believe that the Mad Dog is actually getting outfitted with, when they replace lights, they are replacing them with LED lights on the wingtip landing lights and the taxi lights and such.
Yeah, Al says that a lot of their buses he flies have LEDs.
And all the new generation ones, or the new jets, are coming out with LEDs.
And of course, they burn much cooler and produce a lot of power for what they're on. And a great idea, because you don't have to have vast voltages to.
And I think they last quite a bit longer too.
Well, it depends how hard you land them. Owls don't last very long.
Oh, and another interesting thing is, depends on the aircraft, but on the Mad Dog, the actual landing lights themselves are like 10, 12-inch diameter lights that are normally faired with the wing on the underside, on the wingtips, that actually rotate 90 degrees and are in the wind stream and are kind of almost like little tiny speed brakes. They're
cool. They're like a lot of drag. Ferrari, aren't they? Little Ferrari headlights coming out.
Yeah, but they vibrate way too much. And
do they? Well,
yeah,
I guess a lot of Ferrari probably vibrates too.
Yeah, probably so. So that's another reason why we don't turn our landing lights on. And then whatever. Good question though. Good question and great answer. Thank you, Nick. All right.
Anything I can do? How are we doing?
Oh, you know what? Oh, I'm going to squeeze one more in there.
I said the actress to the bishop. You beat me to
it. Great minds, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You remember, and many people that are new to the show haven't gone back and have not quite caught the APG syndrom and aren't
really. There are people out there like that.
Can you believe it?
No, I don't.
And a lot of people that are new to the show who haven't listened to earlier episodes, inevitably I get one of these every month or two. Oh, have you seen this great video on YouTube? It's Captain, Kent Ween, who's talking about, what he loves about the MD-80, Cockpit Chronicles, I think it's called. And I just happened to see this just a few days ago. Cockpit Chronicles, MD-80, C.R. Smith Museum exhibit, and the C.R. Smith Museum has cut off a cockpit of an MD-80 and created a really neat exhibit. And this is Kent, his writing, where my voice gives you a tour of all the quirky features of the airplane. I was lucky to first see the finished product with my two daughters while they were with me when we passed through Dallas and had a stopover there. be sure to watch the original video that inspired this museum exhibit. And so there's a link to the original video that everybody's always referring me to. Have you seen this? Yes, many, many times. And it's kind of cool to see Kent a little bit older now. And I don't know what airplane he's flying, but it's kind of cool that they asked him to be the voice of this exhibit at the C.R. Smith Museum in Dallas. And we'll put a link to the video in the show notes so you can watch the new and improved Kent and his little tour of the display. And
apparently Captain Al has met him. Says he's a
really
lovely guy. Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, he is he seems to be a lovely guy. I have not met him myself.
Oh, and apparently the 320 landing lights also dropped down, causing drag.
How about that?
I didn't know that. It's amazing, isn't it?
So I guess they don't do that on your the big boys, huh?
No, ours are embedded in the leading edge of the wing root. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. With that, for sure, we're going to go ahead and end today's show. On anything that we didn't get to in today's episode, we'll move to the next. In fact, I think Liz is already doing some housekeeping because I was looking at one of my notes here and then all of a sudden it just like disappeared. And what the heck? What happened to it? And it just like reshuffled everything. I'm going, okay, I know what's happening. Liz is already working on next week's episode. And so thank you, Liz.
Well, we only missed a couple.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job.
Absolutely.
And so thanks for watching the show with us today, especially those of you who are here with us live. And remember that we do this on a video platform, although that we don't really plan this as a standalone video show. It's just kind of a behind the scenes of us recording the audio podcast. And you can check that out by going to our YouTube channel, Airline Pilot Guy. And we also have a great website, airlinepilotguy.com, where you can find information about the crew, the community, merchandise. Let's see, what else do we have there? We have Plain Tales, its own special page. By the way, you can subscribe to Plain Tales as a standalone podcast as well and review it on Apple's iTunes and podcasts and whatever podcast catcher you're using. What else? We have apps for our iPhones and Android devices on their respective app stores. Just look for or do a search for Airline Pilot Guy, 3 words. And we're also on social media. And that's where Captain Nick comes in. Tell us about that.
Okay, we are on Twitter, as somebody once told me it was called. And if you want to attract our attention, then please direct your criticisms to at APG Crew. And then Captain Jeff will personally get them. Now, at APG Crew, that is the handle to use. Now, if you want to go, oh dear, that's you've had your paid docked again.
Yeah, dollars going down the tubes.
Exactly. Now, if you're a Facebook person, then you can find us at the
Bless your heart
Facebook preamble, and we are Airline Pilot Guy.
Yes. And as mentioned at the beginning of the show, we have a Slack team on Slack.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. Slack is a communication, coordination, and sharing platform that works on your mobile, laptop, or browser. On Slack, we share ideas and news. We suggest episode and Plain Tales topics. We plan events and meetups. To get into the Slack team, please email me at slack@airlinepilotguy.com. That's SLACK, Sierra Lima Alpha Charlie Kilo at airlinepilotguy.com, or send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @Hillel, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel, spelled HI11E1, Hotel India 11 Echo 1, and see you in Slack.
All right, thanks, Hillel, and as always, thanks to our production assistant, Liz Piper in Toronto. We do appreciate all the help. And Roger Stern, Radio Roger, for our introductions. And until next,
professional.
Yes, very. Until next time, wishing you all clear skies, unlimited visibility, and tailwinds. Take care and God bless.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
Hello. Bye-bye. Bye.
That's not
Thanks for
funny.
coming. We love Captain Jeff.
All right. There was another one I was going to play, but I can't find it. There are just so many clips. So many clips, too little time. Oh, well. Well, that was fun.
It worked well. Yep.
Well, sort of. Until I pushed the stop broadcast button.
Yeah. But once we got Dana's problem sorted.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then, of course, all the getting caught up with Dana. That was quite
yeah. Can I edit any of that?
He probably doesn't listen to it, so yeah, I can probably cut out most of it.
No, it's lovely listening about other people's holiday exploits.
Yes, for sure. Thank you, everybody in the chat room, for hanging out with us today. And let's see, someone sent me an email once saying I had seen the Kent Wiener video. True story. Kent Wiener. Well, almost. Yeah. Ease off the drugs, Nick.
Yeah, I know. Woohoo! I'm trying to come down. It's a dreadful job coming down off drugs, I tell you.
They're not opioid based, are they? Or narcotic?
Well, one of them was.
Ooh, that's dangerous.
I think it's tramadol.
Oh, that's why you're asking me if I had any extra tramadol around my house here.
Yeah. Well, I've got a few to sell now, so no, I'm really joking. That really was a joke.
Yes, just kidding. Really,
just kidding.
Sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway. So no, I don't have any to sell. I shall be flashing them. I stopped taking them as soon as I could because they make me slow dopey.
Yeah,
not that I'm not normally dopey, but
dopier than normal.
When I'm double dopey, that's really not a good thing.
Sad.
Yeah,
very, very sad. All right. Well,
so what number was that, Jeff?
That was 367.
367.
Yeah, part 1 and part 2.
Yeah. Same recording from me though.
Okay, good. And I don't think you'll need to send it if you want to save on bandwidth, because I think everything sounded pretty good.
I get it. There's no restriction on my bandwidth.
Okay. Very good, very good. So everyone, hope that everybody enjoys the rest of their weekend. And
yeah, what's left of it?
Oh,
we've just about destroyed it.
Oh, I forgot to mention the meetup in Duxford that Pip wanted.
Oh, Pip! Oh, you'll have to edit that in.
Right.
How are you going to do that?
I don't know.
I probably won't be able to go that because it's the day before I do my final flight.
So remind us again. Here, I'll put a note, or maybe Liz can put a note in the intro note about May
12th, Duxford.
May 12th at Duxford. Yeah, put that, if you don't mind, Liz. Would you put a note there on the intro page so we don't forget to mention that? And there's still plenty of time for that. And if anybody's watching the video, this is still being recorded, so they'll hear us talking about it right now. Yeah, yeah. I think that's going to be difficult for you to make, right? Because you're leaving on 13th.
That's right. I mean, I will have a look see, but I suspect there'll be an awful. I can't add this file anyway, Jeff. It's over 200 megs.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you need it, give me a shout.
Okay. But I think I'll be okay. I'll be okay. What else?
Yeah, I'm taking Jilly on that last trip, so we'll be organizing tickets and that sort of stuff, and then it'll just be a bit hard.
Okay. Anything else to do while we're still on air?
Tell Captain Al he's a fine chap.
Captain Al is a fine chap. I bet Captain Al surprised I didn't name the last episode the Captain Al episode. I almost did.
Yeah. But we think he gets enough ego boosting as it is.
Yes.
Okay.
But
then once we start doing that, Neville Bounds will want one.
Oh, the Neville Bounds episode.
Yeah, and then Hamish Haggis will want one.
Yeah.
And
we'll have to be like friends. The one they talked about, Neville Bounds. The one they
no. Mailman Dave, he'll be in on it.
Never happen. We're never gonna name
it. The Pick Up Your Rubber Bands episode.
Mailman Dave, is he actually in the chat room? He's very rarely ever with us on recording
today.
Live. Yeah.
He's always out and about doing things. So,
yes, he is. He's a good mate. We always give each other bad time.
Captain Al says you can hear sirens. Aren't they the women that used to lure sailors onto rocks?
Lucky Al.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess unlucky.
Don't go there, Al. Don't go there.
I don't hear siren. Does he hear sirens in his own place, or does he hear sirens from our end of things?
I think he hears sirens in his own head.
Okay. Where are you, Al? Are you at home, or are you on the road?
Oh, my darling lady has just presented me with a cup of tea.
Ooh, how nice.
Yes, I've got tea and you haven't. No.
That's not kind.
That's right. Listen to that woman. She's smart. Except for the part where she agreed to marry you.
Why do you think I have a pair of headsets that are like this? Actually, no noise gets through those.
Good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop the broadcast the second time today. And thanks, everybody, for hanging with us on this Saturday, and look forward to seeing you around the campus.
Yeah, it's the big red button, Jeff.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. I'm familiar with it. All right. Here we go.
Bye,